It is the hill that I will die on, and I didn't like it. Hey guys, welcome back to a page in a chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we are doing my May wrap up. So this is a particularly exciting video because tomorrow, the day after you're watching this video, is my 1 year on BookTube. I do have something planned for it, but to be honest, the anniversary snuck up on me and I don't have time to film a big thing this week. So next week will be my 1 year BookTube anniversary video. But yeah, this is very exciting. I have been on BookTube for a whole year now and I have some thoughts and we will talk about those in another video. But today is all about going through all of the books that I read in May. And I think potentially some of these may have been a little bit in April too. I may have started them in April, finished them in May kind of deal. So yeah, this is kind of more of a recent read slash May wrap up. It's all very confusing. I would like to apologise if I sound a little different in this video. I've woken up really not feeling well today, so I'm a bit, you know, my sinuses are playing up a little bit. Hopefully it's not the big CO. I'm gonna go for a test later. And yeah, so if I sound a little weird, that's why, but I want to film this video for you guys and, well, I need to. If you guys like what you've seen so far, God knows why you would have when it's just been me being rambly, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stick around. As I said, we have a big anniversary video coming up next week. I've got some really fun videos planned that I'm really looking forward to filming, and as I've said in previous videos, I'm gonna go back up to posting twice a week in a couple weeks time, so you guys do not want to miss that, so you may as well stay tuned. Also, another place for you guys to kind of control what you see on this channel, ask me questions, get to know me a little bit more. You might want to follow me over on Twitter. I do a lot of polls, I ask you guys a lot of questions about what you want to see, what books you want me to read, type of thing. So if you guys want to control what I'm reviewing and what you're hearing about, following me on Twitter is the best way to do that. So yeah, please feel free if you would like to. And now let's get into the books that I read in May, because there's quite a few this month. So all in all, I read 6 books in the month of May, which is much more than I have tackled previously. I'm going to include some DNFs or some unfinished ones in this video too. So including those, I read 8 books or started 8 books. This is going to be my thoughts on those 8 books. We're going to talk a little bit about the Do-The-Thing-A-Thon readathon, which I took part in. The first book that I read in May was a book that I vlogged, and I vlogged this for my reading 100 pages a day until I like reading again video, and this was Heartstopper volume 3. I absolutely adored this. I cannot wait to get my hands on volume 4. I'm just hanging back a bit because I want to drag out the books that are published as long as I possibly can. However, I have heard really good things about volume 4 from my friend Rachel, so I'm struggling to not run out and pick that up right now. What I loved about this book was it delved a lot more into Nick and Charlie's relationship, and it also delved a lot more into the experience of having a crush when you're a teenager at school. I thought Alice Osman really handled that well. This was just very cute and wholesome and really helped me with my reading slump, and all in all I just felt like Alice Osman really captured the essence of being a teenager. I felt like I was right back at school. I felt like I was with Nick and Charlie the whole way. If you're looking for a gateway graphic novel series, Heartstopper is where it is at, and now I just want to read all of the graphic novels in the entire world. And then the next book that I read, I also read as part of that reading 100 pages a day challenge, and that was Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron. I absolutely adore this book, and I have now made all of my friends that read it, and they have also very much enjoyed it. So this is a lesbian retelling of Cinderella, and it takes place in a world where the Cinderella story is believed to have been true, and it's being used by an incredibly patriarchal society to force women into obedience and early marriage. But our main character doesn't want to go to the ball and find a suitor because she's already in love with another woman. So she runs away and she discovers the truth about the original Cinderella story, and this was so unique. I have never read a Cinderella retelling quite like this, and I feel like there are hints in this book about a spin-off that will look at a different fairy tale, and I need more of Kalynn Bayron's retellings because she did this so well. There was so many twists I didn't see coming. I loved the LGBTQ+ element. I thought that really added so much to the plotline, and if you haven't picked this up yet, I would add it to your TBR immediately. I really enjoyed this, and also this isn't particularly heavy on the fantasy if you're worried about that. I know retellings are often incredibly fantasy heavy. I'd say this has fantasy threads, but it's definitely more of a contemporary commentary on the patriarchal society and the original Cinderella story. Whilst it has fantasy elements, it doesn't really read that much like a fantasy. Very, very character based. And then I did a poll over on my Twitter about what book you wanted me to read next, and you guys screwed me over and you picked Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I hated this book. I think I gave it a 2 stars, but now that I've had more time to reflect on it, I think I would honestly give it a 1 star. What the hell is up with the hype around this book and Samantha Shannon? First of all, this book is just too long. That's my biggest qualm with it. It's just too long. I had to read the first 2 chapters about 3 times because I just couldn't understand what the hell was going on, and that didn't really go away the more I read it. I will say there are some political elements, which if you guys know, I absolutely love that in adult fantasy. It's the only reason I really read adult fantasy is because I love how authors construct politics and how politics can have so many effects that you don't see coming. And this, you know, I thought that this was really going to do that well. And I thought that the first massive chunk of the book would be like world building that would then lead to a load of politics and consequences that I would only understand because of the world building. But that didn't happen. I didn't feel like I needed so much world building and nothingness at the beginning to understand what happened at the end. I think this book really could have been 300 pages and exactly the same things would have been able to happen and make sense. There was only really one point of view that I enjoyed, but even then it wasn't enough to save the book for me. Everyone rants and raves about this book, but in all honesty, I would recommend this to very, very few people, because it is such a long and heavy fantasy, and I love long and heavy fantasies. You guys know that Crescent City is I'm deeming it my favourite book of the year already. There are plenty of long, heavy fantasies that I absolutely adore, and I didn't like this. It was too long and too heavy even for me, and there was not enough reward. This book even had pirates in it, and I didn't like it. And I have been begging for more pirates in books the entire time I've been on BookTube. It is the hill that I will die on, and I didn't like it. Yeah, whilst I did start to enjoy this book at the 600-700 page mark, that was too late really to be a redeeming factor for me, and the last 100 to 200 pages weren't good enough to make the first 600 pages worth the read. I just didn't think they were necessary. Please could you guys let me know about Samantha Shannon's other books, because I've heard really good things. Is it called The Bone Season? I don't know, but I've heard really good things about Samantha Shannon's other books. I know a load of people really, really love them and swear by them. Is it anything like this? Because I would like to read them, but I also don't want to waste my time again. So anyone who's read both, could you please let me know whether I should give the other ones a try? So then after that, in all honesty, I was feeling pretty slumpy again. So I whipped out the Kindle for the first time in a while, and I was looking for a YA contemporary that would lift my spirits up a bit after that. And I found a book that I think everyone needs to read. So this book is called Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, and it is so fun. This book gave me the same kind of vibes and plotline as Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, and as you guys know, I absolutely love Morgan Matson books, so if you enjoyed that, I would definitely give this a go. And this is about our main character, and she has a diary within which she makes lists, and these lists are all very personal. It's like she has a to do before she graduates list, a worst things I've ever done list, a things I'm lying about list, those type of things. And unfortunately this diary goes missing, and then someone starts blackmailing her to do the things on her to do before I graduate list, otherwise they will release other more personal lists from the journal. This leads her to rope in a guy that she very much does not like to help her complete the lists, because she blames him for the fact that her journal was stolen in the first place, and they go on this huge adventure to complete the list. So I think you guys can see how it's very Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson vibes. This book has a lot of themes of race and class in America, and this experience of race is very much embedded in the plot line and is a very central part of the plot, and I really enjoyed how it was handled. It did feel very YA and accessible. It still had that romance coming of age plot, but it was very much centered around how our main character was coming to terms with her black identity in a very white middle class American setting, and it was about how her doing these things on this list was making her realize that she doesn't have to pretend to be white to fit in. It's about her coming to terms with the fact that she is black and it's okay to be black, and people will still like her if she is black and she is offended by racist comments, and she doesn't have to just pretend to be white in order to please people in this very white society. And obviously I cannot say with any certainty how well this was handled, but it seemed really, really well handled to me, and I really enjoyed reading it. And I just love this book. It was so fun but so educational at the same time, and I think everyone should read it. This was a solid 5 out of 5 stars for me. So the next book is another book that I started, and I started this book because I needed something to read in between finishing Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry and starting Do-The-Thing-A-Thon. So my friend lent me this book, and it is called Sometimes We Tell the Truth, and essentially this book is a YA retelling of the Canterbury Tales. And I thought that I would really enjoy this. However, you know, I got about, I don't know, a third of the way through. It is very easy reading. The font is super big. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can get through it. But I didn't love this. It is an incredibly sexual book for a book that is written for teenagers and YA. And I understand that is because it is a Canterbury Tales retelling, and the Canterbury Tales are incredibly bawdy to begin with. But I feel like maybe this was aimed at the wrong audience, and it was just a little confusing at who it was aimed at, because some of these tales were dark and also very sexual, but then the writing style is incredibly young. Like, again, I felt too old to be reading it, and I really don't enjoy when YA books make me feel too old to be reading YA. I know I'm getting old, but please let me pretend I'm still a teenager. As well as just being incredibly sexual, a load of these stories were quite rapey and sexual assaulty. And I was like, I don't really know if we should be portraying sex in that way to young adults. That I didn't love that a lot of the stories were quite disrespectful towards women, especially when it is written by a woman. I was very confused by that. And then of the female characters that I did encounter as I read this, there was one female character, and when it got to her story itself was fine and kind of did share the right message and was a very powerful feminist message, but then the argument was completely torn apart by the fact that the author then goes on to completely just construct her as one of these like extreme feminist type women. Like, she refuses to shave, she's completely made fun of for that. She's just presented in like, it's almost like she's set up as a feminist to be mocked, and her feminist ideals are just there for humour more so than meaning. And again, the fact that this is written by a woman, didn't love that. And I don't know if I've completely missed the point of this book, but when I was talking to my friend who lent this to me, she also kind of felt the same way about this particular character. So I don't know if we've just missed the point or if Kim Zarins has missed the point. But either way, this was a miss for me. I haven't rated it because I didn't finish it, and I don't want to add it to my Goodreads goal when I haven't finished it. This is probably going to be a DNF for me. And the next book I read was again a Kindle book, and this was The Deal. I read this book because I'd heard that it was hockey based, and I absolutely love ice hockey and any kind of winter sports. I used to be a figure skater, so any kind of book surrounding skating in any way I want to read. And this was the first book in this series, and The Deal, which is the first book in the off-campus series, was free on Kindle at the time when I was looking to read it. I don't know if it still is, you will have to check, but for a little while it was free on Kindle, so I didn't stand to lose anything by checking out this book. This book, I can't even lie, is incredibly trashy. Real new levels of trashy. Especially the first few chapters, when our main characters in two perspectives actually meet and interact with each other. It gets less cheesy and less Wattpad, but the first few chapters when they're like seeing other people is like real, like, really cheesy, badly written smut, like awful. I had all of my friends read it and we were all just laughing in the room at how awful this smut was written. There are trigger warnings for assault of all kinds in this book, which I kind of wish I'd known before going in. I was in a reading slump, so when I was looking for a trashy, really light-hearted romance, it would have been nice to know those things before going in, and I really haven't heard anyone mention trigger warnings for the off-campus series, so yeah, just gonna put that in here now. There is absolutely nothing groundbreaking with this book. It follows the same tropes, the same basic plotline of all romances, the same structure of all romances. Like, there is really nothing groundbreaking or new about this book. That being said, it does what it says on the tin type of thing. I really did enjoy it. The smut scenes get a lot better as you go through. I actually did really enjoy some of the smut scenes towards the end. It was a romance. It was a college romance, and it was really enjoyable. It was the kind of book and plotline that I was looking for when I was looking to read a college romance. Will I continue with the series? Only if they're free or close to free on Kindle. I don't think I would pay full price for these books. But if you are looking for a really easy reading college romance and you don't mind the triggers, then I would definitely say check this out. And then the last book that I actually finished was a book that I had set aside for Do-The-Thing-A-Thon, which was a readathon taking place in the last week of May. I did upload a TBR for that. That was last week's video if you guys are interested in going and watching that. However, spoiler alert, I completely failed at this readathon. I failed harder than I really thought I would fail. The first book that I read for this readathon was Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I did enjoy this book, and I would definitely continue with the series, and I would definitely pay full price for the rest of the series, but I think I can tell you now that this is not going to be my favourite book in the Brown Sisters series. I think they can probably only get better from here. I just didn't really connect with Chloe and Red. I didn't love them as characters. Again, this book is nothing groundbreaking. It follows exactly the same structure as every other romance novel. The romance felt a little bit fast-tracked to me. I don't know if that is just because I read the book in the space of 24 hours, so that made it feel a lot faster. And even if it was quite fast-tracked, I guess that is realistic. Like, in an adult romance, I guess you're not gonna have that, oh, I've been crushing on this guy in my school for 3 years type of relationship. With adults, you usually meet someone and if you're interested, you date. So I guess that is also why it felt fast-tracked, because I'm used to the slow burn of YA. So this wasn't really a negative, it's just a comment that I had about the book. Again, I really enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 3 or a 4 stars. It was a very enjoyable book, and it was a great introduction to the Brown Sisters, and I very much do want to continue with them. My main qualm about this book, it didn't feel like a 5-star book, so it was never gonna get 5 stars. And then I think I gave it a 3 stars because I think I knocked a star off because I really didn't love the ending. I didn't feel like there was enough time after the great conflict for me to believe that Red had really worked through his issues. It kind of felt like they were on track for this to be a reoccurring, slightly abusive relationship in the future. I just felt like that if the conflict had come a little bit earlier and there had been more of a resolution and more time to see that Red was fixing his behaviour, I would believe it a little bit more than the ending that we did get. And yeah, that was my main qualm with this book. I just didn't love the ending. So whilst this book was absolutely fine, I had no real issues with it, no real love for it. I will continue with this series, and as I said, I've heard that the other books are much better. I don't think I've ever really heard anyone say that they love Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I think most people just use it as the entrance to the rest of the series, in which they then do fall in love with characters. A pretty solid read. It was a great way to kick off the Do-The-Thing-A-Thon. As I said, I read it in a 24-hour period. It was looking like we were going to be on track. And then I didn't finish another book for the Do-The-Thing-A-Thon, so I pretty much read my weekly average, which sucks. I set myself 3 to reads and 1 maybe, and I read 1 1/4, 1 1/3 maybe. I started Legendborn. I really enjoy it. There's nothing against it. I'm not far in yet to even have thoughts. I don't have anything noted down for this book. It's been fine, it's been enjoyable. I've just been so busy. I think my plan was, I'll be in the car a lot on these road trips so I can read in the car. I completely forgot that I would be in a car with like 4 other girls, and we would be screaming Olivia Rodrigo at the top of our lungs. So whilst that was one of the most fun weeks of my entire life, it wasn't conducive for reading, and I really shouldn't have suggested that I take part in a readathon that week. I'd say onwards and upwards. Still haven't picked up Legendborn this week, but next week onwards and upwards. Yeah, so here are the books that I read in May, perhaps started in April, I really can't remember that far back, but all the books that I finished or started in May. It was all in all a much better reading month than I have had previously. As you guys know, I have been battling one of the worst reading slumps I've ever been in. So I am proud of myself for finishing this many books, especially the Priory of the Orange Tree. Even though I didn't enjoy it, that was a really big book, and to start and finish that and keep with it enough to actually review it or whilst in a reading slump is something I'm particularly proud of. And I did find some new favourite books or series that I really want to continue reading in this month. So it wasn't a bad month. I think it was just tarnished reading wise by the last week of the month when I'd said I would read 3 or 4 books and I only read 1, but I'm trying not to be too down on myself about that. So yeah, not a bad month, just a little bit disappointed about my progress for Do-The-Thing-A-Thon. We'll get over it, we move onwards and upwards from here. Thank you guys very much for watching, especially if you made it this far. If you didn't make it this far, why not hit that big red subscribe button down below and stick around. Let me know if you have read any of these books and what you think of them, especially about the Samantha Shannon thing, because I'd really like to know. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, you can also go reach out to me on Twitter or check out my Twitter. It is the easiest way to get a hold of me. I do also have an Instagram that is also on the screen, but my Instagram is not book related at all and it's just pictures of my face. So for book related content, Twitter is probably the best place. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm sorry that I'm sick in this video. I know it's not fun to watch and I probably sound awful and I'm out of breath and everything's just a bit of a mess, but I really wanted to get this video up. I've been really excited to talk about these books. As I said to you guys, stay tuned for my 1-year booktube anniversary video next week. It will be 6 days after my booktube anniversary, but as I said, completely forgot that my booktube anniversary was tomorrow. I'm a bad booktuber at the moment, okay? I don't know my anniversary and I'm not really reading. We move. I really do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm sorry for my rambling. I hope that you guys have had a great month of reading and are enjoying everything you are reading at the moment. Let me know. I love to talk about books, even though I may not be reading them, but I love to talk about them. So I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week and I will see you next week for my next video. Bye guys.